It's been a long road to this moment, but this is my Crackdown 3 review, originally revealed back in 2014 at E3. It's now 2019 and the game is finally available tomorrow, February 15th on the Xbox One and the Windows 10 PC. It's Xbox Play Anywhere, which means you buy one version, you get the other version for free. It retails for $60. It's also a part of your Xbox Game Pass subscription. And I want to thank Microsoft for sending over a code for the purpose of this video. I've got a lot to say about this game, so let's get into it, shall we? What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another review. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a like and consider subscribing by the end. For those of you who have been waiting for Crackdown 3 to come out, hoping it's the Crackdown game you've always wanted, well, I have some good news for you. As Crackdown 3 is a Crackdown game through and through, and if that gets you really excited, then don't worry about what I have to say or anybody else has to say about Crackdown 3. You'll get the game tomorrow, and you really enjoy it, because for better or for worse, Crackdown 3 is a Crackdown game to its core. Now, there are a lot of things I really enjoyed about this title, but there are also a lot of things that I didn't. And for me, the negatives outweighed the positives. But let's start at the beginning. What is the setup for the game? So Crackdown 3's story, which I use in quotes as it's not really much of a story, although I do enjoy the comic book styled cutscenes they do use. The cinematic cutscene that you see at the beginning, well, there's only two of them. The one at the beginning and the one at the end. Most of it is just kind of comic book panels, which fits the aesthetic of the game they're going for. I mean, the game is a comic book come to life, so I really enjoyed the aesthetic of the game. I think the game looks quite good, actually, especially when the HDR was patched in. Originally, when I played through the first half of the game, it didn't look like HDR was doing much, but I'm happy to report that on my LG OLED B8, the HDR is popping and the game looks quite good. It obviously does not look like a 360 game, but it definitely plays like a last-gen title through and through. But getting back to the story, Crackdown 3 takes place 10 years after the events of Crackdown 2 in a new city called New Providence. Now, the opening cinematic sees Terry Crews, or Agent Jackson as he's known in the game, and all of the other agents get killed by a green wave of energy, which actually was a pretty dark way to open up the game. Everybody's dead, but you respawn, and that gives you the reason to start at level 1 as a lowly agent, which of course means, hey, you get to power up again. You get to become a superhero, and you do that by collecting those awesome agility orbs, beating down enemies, which increases your melee, using explosives, increases that stat, driving. I mean, you know the whole spiel. It's from Crackdown 1, Crackdown 2. Skills for kills, agent. Skills for kills. And it's ever addicting to go after those agility orbs. Let me tell you, that is definitely one of the highlights of the game. The movement, the parkour, being able to double jump, triple jump, and yes, dash twice in the air while holding a rocket launcher, raining destruction on the people beneath you is fun. And for the first 4 or 5 hours, I was having a pretty decent time with the game. Not a great time, mind you. So they absolutely 100% nailed the movement in this game, as well as the feeling of becoming a superhero. Because let me say, when you start off and you're level 1, your punches really don't do much. But by the time you constantly do it over and over, you gain a new perk at each level. By the time you reach level 5, strength, you're basically beating people down in a single punch. You have a ground pound that just drops you from the sky straight down in the air, just killing everything beneath you. That feeling of becoming puny to becoming a Hulk-like monster is very satisfying. But where the cracks in the foundation really started to occur for me was how the campaign and the mission structure was set up. I wasn't a fan of it, and I'm going to explain why right now. Start the game and pick your agent. Yes, there's other agents you can play as besides Agent Jackson, aka Terry Crews, but why would you want to play as anybody else is beyond me. There are other agents to play as well, find within the game world itself. They each offer their own experience buffs, but to me, come on, it's Terry Crews, right? Your goal is to basically take down the Terra Nova Corporation and oust Elizabeth Niemand. And the way you do it, well, it's pretty simplistic. There are 3 separate divisions of Terra Nova: the security, industry, and logistics. And each one of those divisions has a captain in charge of them. And once you defeat those 3 captains, well, you can fight Elizabeth. But each one of those 3 captains is kind of guarded by multiple lieutenants. And once you go through those multiple lieutenants, it'll mark on the map where the captains are. You beat them, you can go to Elizabeth. But of course, the game's open world. You can do whatever you want at any point in time. You could go try fighting the final boss right away as a level 1 agent. You probably won't be able to beat it, but I think it's actually possible because beating the captains and lieutenants make it easier for you to climb the tallest tower in the center of the world to reach the top. But if you're like me, you're going to go clockwise around the map, clearing out and doing all these different missions, right? You're going to do prisoner hardpoints and monorail stations and destroy chemical factories. But after a few hours, you'll realize that's all there is to do. And you're just going in this clockwise motion around the map doing the same exact thing for 12 hours. And I'm going to say it right now, by hour 12, when I finished the game, after collecting 500 orbs, after doing all the rooftop races and the road races and the propaganda towers and everything the game had to offer except for the stunt rings, I wanted the game to be over. I was incredibly bored, and I have no desire to actually play the game again. And it's because of that repetitive mission structure the game has, where you go and you take down a chemical plant by destroying the 7 valves on it, and there's 12 of those to destroy. And yes, wouldn't you know it, when you run into the next chemical plant, it has 7 valves to destroy. The only thing that changes is, well, the amount of enemies guarding it. And at first, in the first 4 hours, I was having fun going to and fro, doing the different missions, collecting the orbs, completing the rooftop races, which are really good, doing the road races, which are really bad because the driving in this game, well, I don't want to mince words here. The driving in this game is absolutely abysmal. It's some of the worst driving I've experienced in a game in a long time. Once you do all this stuff, once you realize this is it, that's all there is to Crackdown. Collecting the orbs and doing these repetitive missions, it just started to bore me. And I wanted to move on. And that's when I realized, you know what? They've made a Crackdown 3. The best Crackdown game out there is a game called Saints Row 4. And I remember thinking to myself back then, wow, they really outdid Crackdown. I wonder how Crackdown is going to come back from this and retake the genre that they basically started, that other games came into. The Saints Row franchise, Infamous, Agents of Mayhem. But they didn't. Crackdown 3 is just a solid Crackdown 1. It does nothing new. It just borrows everything from the original 360 game. Even borrows some of that janky animation. And if that's all you're looking forward for, if that's what you want, that's what you're gonna get. You'll get your Crackdown. You'll get your repetitive mission structure. You'll get your parkour. Yes, you can play everything in 2-player co-op, which I tried it out. It worked perfectly fine, but that's my big issue with the game, was the mission structure. It made me bored of it by the end, and I wanted to stop. I mean, we could talk about the shooting, which uses the lock-on. It hasn't changed since 2007, which honestly I don't really have a problem with because you're doing a lot of jumping around, and it would be hard to aim at enemies with a console controller. So I thought it was useful because I was constantly double jumping and triple jumping all over the place while raining death and destruction on my enemies beneath me and landing and doing another jump. So the lock-on was appreciated, but I mean, there's not really a lot of skill involved with doing that. Then, of course, there are the 9 boss fights in the game, and they range from good to okay. Most of them fall in that category, but there is one in particular that is awful, absolutely awful, and you'll know it when you come to it. This giant plane that you fight on top of a building is absolutely horrendous, and quite frankly, most of the boss fights aren't really boss fights because you'll destroy them pretty quickly. In fact, the 3 captain fights in the middle of the city are basically platforming challenges to try to get up the building, which are enjoyable as platforming is the best part of this game, but the boss fights are nothing spectacular. So what did I really enjoy about the game? The platforming, the hunting of the agility orbs, the leveling up of your character, that's all intact from the original Crackdown. I like how the game looks. The HDR is vibrant, the city looks alive, especially in the downtown area where the game actually shines. Some of the outskirts didn't really do it for me. The lock-on mechanic I have no issues with. My favorite part was just double jumping and killing everything beneath me with my upgraded powers. That part is really good. What I didn't like was the repetitive mission structure. The fact that you have to do 12 monorail stations, 12 chemical plants, 10 hard points, and you realize it's just a checklist and you work your way across the map. The map design itself, when you're actually in the user interface, is pretty bad as well. The driving is absolutely abysmal. It's a 12-hour game. I did pretty much everything except the stunt rings, and I have no desire to return to the title. Now, as for the Wrecking Zone, well, unfortunately, they didn't really have many opportunities to play against reviewers in the multiplayer, so I'm not going to include this in my review because I didn't get a chance to play it. I might review that down the road when I get some time to actually play it, but the fact that you can't play with your friends or invite them really doesn't make me want to play that mode until you're able to. I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering what score would I give this game and would I recommend Crackdown 3 to people out there. Well, I'm going to give this game a 6.5. It's exactly what I think the game deserves. There are elements of fun in the beginning, and it's addicting as ever to collect those orbs, but man, the repetitive mission design really threw me off here. It's definitely not worthy of the 5 years in development, which clearly went all to the cloud, as this game seemed like it was put together maybe in 2 years. It doesn't do anything new. It's a last-gen Crackdown game through and through, except for the visuals. And yeah, would I recommend it to people for $60? Only if you're a Crackdown fan and you're looking forward to it, because you will get what you wanted, a Crackdown game. Everybody else, if you're on the fence, I would say no. Wait for a price drop to $30, because that is what I think this campaign is worth, around $30. At that point, maybe it's time to jump in. But then again, there is Xbox Game Pass, so you can try it out for $1 or $10. That's how much subscription goes for, and you can actually judge for yourself. As for me, I'm probably moving on to other games. We got Far Cry New Dawn to play in Metro Exodus, and I doubt I will go and try to get the completion in Crackdown 3, as I'm not sure it's worth collecting all those orbs in the game, quite frankly. Anyways, guys, that is my review. For all you Crackdown fans out there, I hope it's the game that you wanted. For everybody else, I would wait for a sale. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to give it a like, share it out on Twitter and Facebook with a friend. I'd really appreciate that. Hit that sub button if you're new to the channel. Hit that notification bell if you always want to be notified when I drop new content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.